I'm Danielle Williams. I'm married to Danny, and we've got two adorable little girls called Jaeli and Dali, and they've got a rare genetic epilepsy condition called Syngap. And what that means is they're missing a part in their gene code that actually facilitates a lot of brain function. So they're intellectually disabled, they have seizures, they have autism or autistic-like features, and they've got a gamut of other issues as long as my arm. The impact of Syngap on my family is profound. We live almost like we're in a parallel universe to the rest of the world, or all of the family and friends that we have, and I suppose the best way to make it relatable to most people is to think of the recent lockdown we had in Melbourne. We had 15 weeks where we couldn't leave our houses or beyond 5 kilometres of our houses without an essential reason to leave. And at the end of the lockdown, everyone was celebrating, and Danny and I looked at each other and we thought, well, now everyone's not like us anymore. So in lockdown, our lives are always like that. We have to, we can't leave the house easily. I can't leave with the 2 girls by myself. We need a one-to-one adult to child ratio every time we leave the house. Anywhere we go, we have to plan. Just getting the girls out of bed is an effort. I mean, they're in nappies and they've got really difficult behaviour. So the key issues that really impact our lives are sleep or lack of. These bags have been brewing for 10 years. So we've got Jaeli doesn't sleep more than 2 hours in a night, so she's up and down all night. So that is severely impacts us. And the other big impact, seizures. So seizures, we've gone up and down since they were 18 months old. They've had lots of different types of seizures. The most common are the eyelid flutters, and Syngap, it's typical to Syngap to have a lot of these triggered by eating, which is quite unusual for a seizure trigger, but that is quite typical for Syngap. They also have drop seizures, so they are just, with no warning, literally just drop to the ground, lose all tone, all muscle tone, and will drop to the ground, or sometimes will fling back. We've had a few injuries from flinging back or dropping face forward and hitting the marble tabletop or the floor or the back of a cornice, a few ER trips there. And we've had a recent evolution with the seizures, which is now a combination of 3 types of seizures. So we have the eyelid flutter followed by a jerk seizure, and then it goes into what looks like a tonic-clonic, but it's just a convulsive seizure. Our seizures don't last longer than 30 seconds. So while they're scary, they're quite short and sharp, but with a high frequency. So Jaeli at her worst was having 50 seizures an hour, and we're relatively controlled now. Dali still has oodles of the eyelid flutters every hour, but Jaeli's down to about one of those new seizure types every day now. So that's good. It was 6 a day. So the seizures significantly impair our lives, and then behaviour. Behaviour is a massive thing. So sleep, seizures and behaviour are 3 biggest issues. And they've got autistic-like features. Only one of them's got an autism diagnosis, but they both have these features which make it really hard to do anything. So just getting them out of bed is a struggle. Dali is so cheeky and so manipulative and so clever. She does have intellectual disability, but it's quite amazing how smart and how she can get around us, and she has us wrapped around her little fingers, and it's quite astounding what she gets us to do for her. So of a night time every evening, I traditionally take Jaeli to bed, and Danny takes Dali to bed, and every night she'll lie in bed, and she's got limited language, so both girls are defined as non-verbal, so they've got single words but rarely put 2 words together. And of an evening, Dali will go to bed and will then wait for the character that she wants to dress up as that evening. So she'll be lying in bed, and then she looks to Dan and says, witch. So then she wants to be dressed as a witch. So then she says, witch's hat. So he has to go and run around the house looking for a hat, and he brings back the hat, and she says, witch's pot. So she wants the cauldron, and then this goes on and on and on until she's fully kitted out with a hat, a cauldron. She likes the cape, and she also has a broomstick. So every evening this child is going to bed dressed up as her latest character, and we've got quite a few favourites. So they're cheeky, they're charismatic in their own way, really manipulative, really cute, gorgeous, but really, really challenged. When we first started our journey, the first struggle we had medically is getting a diagnosis. So it took us 4 years to get a diagnosis for the girls for various reasons. We were given the diagnosis of epilepsy, of autism, of intellectual disability, or in those days, early days, it's global developmental delay. But we knew that there was something at the core of all of it, and we eventually got the diagnosis through whole genome sequencing. So that was our first window into the medical world. And then after 4 years and we got that diagnosis, we were told there was, at the time, 50 people diagnosed in the world. Right now there's 650 people diagnosed in the world. So there was very limited information about Syngap at the time. So we asked our neurologist, who's Professor Sheffer, what could we do about Syngap? How can we cure this? How can we help our kids? How can we get them to interact with us and talk to us and tell us what hurts and what's wrong with them? And she actually connected us to Professor Steve Petro of the Florey Institute, and he gave us hope. He told us that there are a lot of medical alternatives on foot, and what they're looking at is various ways that they can actually find treatments for these conditions through precision medicine. And so we got heavily involved with Steve. He was our knight in shining armour. That's what we call him. And he's actually doing a lot of research on Syngap right now, which fuels us with hope. But he's one of 40 people around the world that is actually researching Syngap. So we, because we didn't know too much about it initially, I wanted to understand, of the 50 people who had the diagnosis, what were the common themes, what were the common trends, and what was the prognosis like for the girls, because there was no literature to help us. And so we came up with a survey, and we did the survey, and we asked parents about the seizure types and the symptom types, and then we took it to Professor Sheffer, and she then turned it into a 2-year project with a postdoc and produced a paper in the neurology journal on 57 Syngap patients at the time, and that really gave us a lot better insight as to what are the real trends and what is the prognosis. And while we still have a lot of unknowns, there's a lot more we know now, 4 years after diagnosis, than we did back when we were diagnosed. And as far as the research goes, we've collaborated with Syngap researchers all over the world. So we've formed this alliance called the Syngap Global Network. So we've got about 12 representatives from different countries all over the world, and some are more active than others, but it's a force to be reckoned with. These parents who have children who are sick, who just really want to push for research, and what we're doing is we're documenting all the research that's going on, and there are some really strong, hopeful opportunities that give us a realistic hope that someday a treatment or even a cure is going to be available for Syngap. I just hate the idea that we are duplicating our efforts. I've mentioned we get very little sleep, we've got very little energy, and I want to make sure that our energy specifically is directed into the best resources available, but I don't want to be duplicating the effort. So if someone else is doing the same thing that I'm doing, I'd rather work out who's going to stop doing it, who's going to support the other one. And I think that we share that mentality with most Syngap parents across the world, that we need to make sure that we are banding together and that we're not duplicating efforts, and that we understand where the gaps are so that we can jump in and we can support each other and complement each other's efforts to get the best outcome. I mean, with our limited energy, we need to be really clever about how we use it. I'm really hopeful now that a cure is on the horizon, that it's realistic. I mean, I'm naturally optimistic, but I actually truly believe that there is a cure for Syngap and that it will be found. Whether it's found in my kid's lifetime, I'm not certain, and with my realistic hat on, I've got to accept that perhaps it won't be, but I still think the drive, the push to try and find that cure is not wasted effort, because right now we've got 650 people diagnosed, and I mean, if everyone had a genetic test, we'd have hundreds of thousands of Syngapians, or people with Syngap all over the world. So I do think there's a lot of people that have Syngap now that don't know it, and a lot more people that are going to be diagnosed. It's the best time ever to have to rely on precision medicine for a treatment or a cure. I mean, precision medicine's already shown through SMA and cystic fibrosis that it is a vehicle, or it is a way that you can get to treatments and cures. It's actually working for these conditions. And I think I really take solace in the fact that COVID has obviously impacted all of our lives, but you can see that when people are motivated and work together, they can actually produce vaccines, in fact multiple vaccines, within a year. I mean, imagine we had that type of resource and brain power really focused on one of our conditions. But I think the result will be the same. We will be able to get to these treatments for our kids. It'll just obviously take longer because the resources are not as available. We don't have all the funds of the world to invest into it. We don't have all the scientists that are ready to go. But I do really think there is reason for us to hope. Precision medicine is on the horizon. It's here, in fact. And for people with genetic epilepsies, there's real reason to hope now.